Friends, I think we're about to get started. It's such a pleasure for me to join you here this evening at this amazing conference. I'm Carter Sneed. I'm the director of the De Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture, and I'm delighted that you've joined us for this special presentation on the life and mind of Pope Benedict XVI. We are thrilled to have friends old and new joining us this week to reflect on the intellectual legacy of the late pontiff and the many questions and debates he so comprehensively engaged and illuminated during the course of his papacy. I'm particularly grateful to Father Lombardi and the Joseph Ratzinger Benedict XVI Foundation, as well as our friends at the Benedict XVI Institute in Regensburg for partnering with us on this important venture. Tonight, we are incredibly honored to hear from Father Lombardi himself, who will share with us his personal experience and insight into the life of Pope Benedict XVI. Father Lombardi is the president of the Joseph Ratzinger Benedict XVI Foundation and former director of the Holy See Press Office. A native of Piemonte, Italy, he was ordained a priest in the Society of Jesus in 1972 and served as the provincial superior of Italy from 1984 to 1990. Father Lombardi began his work in church communication at the Jesuit biweekly Civiltà Cattolica, where he served as deputy director beginning in 1977. From 1991 to 2005, he served as program director of Vatican Radio, as well as the general director of the Vatican Television Center from 2001 to 2013. Pope Benedict appointed him director of the Holy See Press Office in 2006, where he served until 2016, covering the last 7 years of Pope Benedict XVI's pontificate. Under his leadership today, the Joseph Ratzinger Benedict XVI Foundation continues to advance the promotion of theology in the spirit of Joseph Ratzinger, where it supports emerging theologians and awards the annual Ratzinger Prize in Theology, and also awards the Expanded Reason Prize, which I have a special interest in. Please join me in welcoming Father Federico Lombardi.
I thank very much for this presentation, very kind presentation. And I thank you for being here, and I feel to be with friends. And in this sense, even if I am a little tired and I fear not to find all the English words to speak with you, I am confident in your comprehension and your friendship. Well, then I will do something different from the other people that have spoken from here today. They were important professors and they had done difficult and their complex presentations. I will try to say only a simple witness of my knowledge of Pope Benedict, and to convey to you some points, some impression about his life. Not so much about his thought, because we have already heard many things about this, and it will continue tomorrow also to hear about his ideas, about his works, and so on. Then I try to speak more about his personality, about how I have known him as a human person, and I love him very much. Well, I have 10 points. I hope it's not too much, but in any case, the first is that he is a man who loves his family and has a wonderful memory of his childhood. This is an important thing, I think, in our life. If we had a good childhood and we have a good memory of our family, of our parents, sisters, and brothers. Well, Benedict is surely a man who has a wonderful memory of his childhood. we are struck by the sweetness of the memories of his childhood that he has written in his autobiography. This is wonderful. And some weeks ago, the memories, I don't know if you know who are these four wonderful ladies, consecrated women that were many years with him, and they are now trying to distribute to friends and so on objects that Benedict had in his apartment as memory of him. And then they have given to our foundation a series of wonderful photos of his family and of his childhood. You see here some photos of the family of Benedict. And I cannot forget an evening during the World Families Day in Milan, in which during the vigil, the conversation, question and answer to the Pope, a child put the question to Benedict if he could say something about his childhood. And then Benedict said wonderful things. He said that with every Sunday with the family they went together to the Mass, and then they sang a lot together, even at the table, and then they loved each other very much. They were one heart and one soul. And this is the point that I can never forget. He said that when he think about what paradise must be, he thinks to the years of his childhood in his family. This was for me very impressive. We have heard today about the eschatology and the resurrection and so on and so on. But if Benedict thinks what the paradise can be, he thinks to his childhood. Then the memory of his family was something that was very fundamental for him. And also during his life, he remained with a strict connection to his sister, before that was following him until Rome to help him in his house and so on, then died. But the relation with the brother Georg, Monsignor Georg, was ordained the same day with him, that is a relation that remains practically until the last year of his life, because he died some months before Benedict, not very long. And the relation with Georg was wonderful. He came 3 times per year to Rome to be with his brother. And if they were together, they played together piano with 4 hands. And my strongest regret as director of the Vatican Television Center was that I asked Benedict to film only 1 minute the 2 brothers that were playing together, and he said me no, because he was so discreet and he did not like. But I think that if I had this image, this was wonderful to show how these 2 brothers, 2 priest brothers, were together in harmony the entire life. But he has not given me this gift, in any case. The other thing interesting with Georg is that practically every evening they had a telephone call, practically every evening. And Georg was very open and he spoke very freely. And then some people said to Benedict, please pay attention, because surely your telephone is intercepted. There is someone that listens to, and you have to be prudent what you say. And then he answered, but we talk together in Bavarian dialect. There is no secret agent in the world that can understand what we say during our telephone. Yeah, good. Then, but it was a wonderful relation among these two dear brothers. Well, but the family is not finished with the Bavarian family. There is also another concept of family that was very important for Benedict. Yes, you see here a photo in which in the monastery, in the last year practically of the life of Benedict, the center there is Benedict. Near Benedict there is a woman that is a painter that has done this painting that is shown here also in the photo. But for me, there are more important the other person. There is Genswein and the four memories. And the way in which Benedict speaks about this group of persons is always as his family, and with a very profound affection and love. And he says this in very important occasion. I would remember that at the end of the note he has written about the sexual abuses in the church in 2019. That is an important note that he prepared for the meeting, before the meeting of the bishops in the Vatican. After speaking about the abuses, the causes, and so on, at the end he says, we have to remind that the church is not only a place of scandals or problems and so on, but in the church we have also the experience of the grace of God. We have not to forget this. Yesterday evening he said very well the gratitude, and then the attitude of Benedict to see the grace of God. And he says, as a conclusion of this note, I live in a house in which a small community of people continually discovers in everyday life witnesses of the living God, pointing them out to me too with joy. Seeing and finding the living church is a wonderful task that strengthens us and that always makes us rejoice in the faiths. Then the experience that Benedict does in this family, there is the family of the memories and of Genswein in the last year, is something that for him was a very profound experience of the grace of God. And also in the last letter he wrote in December, in February of the last year, after the big attacks he received from Germany, again about the question of the abuse, he says thanks to the people that have demonstrated him friendship and sustain. And he says, finally, I would like to thank the small family in the Mater Ecclesiae Monastery, whose communion of life in happy and difficult hours gives me the inner solidity that sustains me. Well, then this was the first message I decided to give to you, his love for his family at the beginning of his life, and his love for the family, spiritual family that was around him at the end of his life. in the sense, Benedict was not a man of cold character, was a man with great and profound affections and sentiments. Yes. My second point is a charming professor. This is a typical German professor, you see, that has his pult for the lessons. This is the important time of the life of Ratzinger, not yet Benedict. But this is the time in which I had the first contact of knowledge of Ratzinger, because I was sent to study theology in Germany, in Frankfurt, in the 1969, many years ago. It was the year after the publication of Introduction to Christianity. It was really the time in which the young professor Ratzinger was at the center of the attention of the young student of theology as a leader, a fascinating professor. Many people say that his lessons were a master model of linguistic finesse and expressive intensity also, not only of profound thought and so on. And for me, for my generation of a student of theology, he had a very, very strong attraction. I had not him as my professor, but I desired very much to see him and to listen to him at least sometime. And then I obtained a little stipendium for a summer course in Salzburg, in which Ratzinger had to give some lessons. And I remember this great auditorium full of young students that were silent, so really fascinated by him. It was an experience to listen to him during his lectures of theology. And I have to say that now in the last 25 years, in which I was no more a young student of theology, I had again the experience of the charm, of the fascinating way to speak of Ratzinger during his homilies. I think that his homilies are a synthesis of profound wisdom, knowledge of the scripture, obviously, of the culture, and a great finesse of expression, and a very profound spirituality. He leads us into at the center of the mystery that is celebrated by the liturgy. And I don't like to do very big expression and so on, but if I have to use the words sublime, I think to the homilies of some homilies of Ratzinger during his celebration. This is really an experience of being brought to the heights, to the spirit, the experience of the faiths and of the communion with God. And in this sense, I am very happy that now, maybe the last work that I do for Ratzinger is to edit the last homilies that he has done also after the renunciation in his little family until 2017. So there is practically two years in which he could still have every Sunday an homily for his little family in the chapel, and the good memories have recorded it and tried to transcribe, and I am trying to put in a good form to publish them. But I am very touched by this experience, because to listen again to him and to read his words in the homilies and the Eucharist, it is really to be at the center of his spiritual experience. Well, another point, this is a formidable couple. You see Ratzinger with John Paul II. As I knew that John Paul II had appointed Ratzinger as prefect of the Congregation of Faith, this was for me an immense joy. I thought this is the right man at the right place. And I think that is one of the most important decisions of John Paul II for his pontificate. And he had practically for the entire time of the pontificate, as prefect of the Congregation of Doctrine of the Faith, Ratzinger as a strict collaborator. And if we think, as I think, that the pontificate of John Paul II was immense, was incredible, so 26 years of leadership of the world initiative like the World Youth Days and so on, it's an immense pontificate. But a dimension, an essential dimension of this pontificate was the solidity and the coherence of the doctrine in all the development of this pontificate. It was very long, with a lot of encyclical, as you know, and so on. And in a discreet way was the prefect of the congregation. There was the main collaborator that was the guarantee of this continuity, solidity, and John Paul II had total confidence in him. I think that Ratzinger at least 2 or 3 times has tried to give renunciation from the charge of prefect, but John Paul II has never accepted, because he was convinced that he had really the need of his service until the end. Yes, 2 giants for me. Yes, I say always a formidable couple. This is really a gift for the history of the Church, to have these 2 persons at the same time for more than 20 years. More than 20 years. And then the consequence was an inevitable election.
One day as a cardinal and leaves as Pope Benedict XVI.
I signori cardinali hanno eletto me con semplici, umili lavoratori nella vigna del Signore.
The Pope's first decision is to choose his new name, which usually indicates the style of the pontificate. Ratzinger chooses.
Well, Benedict. Yes. I confess that I did not have the slightest doubt that Ratzinger would be elected. Normally, I don't like to speak of Papa Billy and so on. I wait to see who the new Pope is at the fenster of St. Peter's. This is normally my... But in my mind, I was sure that Ratzinger would be elected in this conclave. Why? Well, this is the first figure of continuity with John Paul II, obviously, but he was a personality of a superior cultural level. I think that from this point there were no rivals at the time with him from the cultural and profundity level. And he had also a great authority, moral authority, because he had never taken part to groups of pressure, to seeking power. It was really a man that was totally free from this aspect of involvement in trying to have power and so on. And his figure was total moral authority and freedom. And it was outside any calculation or power game, yes, it was superior to the parties. And also during the assemblies of the cardinals before the conclave, he was leading the assembly with a sovereign authority and serenity. And I think it was also an element to convince the cardinals to vote for him. He was a good leader for the assembly and for the consensus of the cardinals in leading the church. Well, as you know, also in this last rather discussed book of interviews of Francis of the last days, Francis says that also Ratzinger was his candidate, and he says that practically he was the only one who could be elected. Then also Francis was thinking that Ratzinger was the next pope and was the best and natural choice for this. Well, fifth point is the church is alive, the World Youth Days.
At the August 2005 World Youth Day in Cologne, Benedict XVI faces this great trial by fire, with seeing a million young people on the banks of the Rhine River to receive him, all doubts people had were eliminated. Additionally, Benedict XVI desires to add another element to the traditional outdoor heritage of editing, accompanied by music, that of Eucharistic adoration.
Okay. I was impressed that Benedict, immediately after his election, has confirmed the World Youth Day of Cologne, and it was his first trip abroad. There were people that not knew very well Ratzinger that thought he does not like mass events and is an intellectual, and then maybe will not continue to do the World Youth Days. They had not understood that he was also a pastoral, profound pastor. I was touched that, in one of the last interviews he has given, that he says about the year he was chaplain in a parish only 1 year, I think, at the beginning of his service as priest, but he has said this was the best and happiest year of my life. That is, he had a very profound spiritual, priestly attitude. And and he was also a professor. Professor is normally a man that likes the young people to teach and to help them to grow in a positive way. Well, and Benedict was surely a man who loves the youth, even if in a different style, a different way of relation as John Paul II. But in any case, the days in Cologne were, for me, the confirmation that he had this pastoral attitude. And every time he has done the speech at the end of the year with the cardinal to do a survey of the years, if there was a worthy day, he said, "This is for me the most impressive experience that the church is alive, is vital. There is a future for the church." This, for him, was a very, very important experience. This has struck me. Obviously, there was a different way of relation with the young people as John Paul II. In particular, during the vigil, was very interesting. The way in which John Paul II was speaking to the young people was a dialogue. And John Paul II provoked the young people to clutch, to participate in a very enthusiastic way, interrupting him continuously, and so on. Benedict did not desire to be interrupted. This was very clear. The young people have understood this immediately. Young people are intelligent, yeah? And they saw from his attitude that why? Because he had a discourse to develop. He had a line of his speech, of his message to the young people that they understood that they cannot be interrupted continuously if you have something to explain that is logic and so on. If you are provoking enthusiasm and so on, this is another thing. But for Benedict, it was very interesting to see how the young people was listening. They were listening and not clutching this, but they were very attentive. The assembly, a million people, was silent to listen, to try to follow what he was saying. Very, very interesting. And the only new thing he has done during the World Youth Day is the Eucharistic adoration. At the end of this discourse in the vigil and so on, there was the silent Eucharistic adoration. This was the only new thing he has introduced in the World Youth Days. It was a very moving experience, I have to say. But there is a particular experience in the World Youth Day that I have to recall. It was in Madrid.
Years later, at World Youth Day in Madrid 2011, an extraordinary event takes place. It is August, and the heat is unbearable for those attending the vigil. Within minutes, the sky is covered with black clouds. A strong wind against the globe, threatening to knock down the stage and platform. Then torrential rain pours on the earth. Under these circumstances, with the increasing risk that the illuminated towers could be demolished, Benedict XVI emphasizes what is most important. He cuts his speech short, but he does not proportion it. With the impressive monstrance from the Cathedral of Federico in view, he got on his knees to pray. More than 1 million young people imitate him in a magical moment of silence and meditation as the storm subsides. They are wet to the bone, stained with mud, but full of joy and inner peace.
Gracias por esta alegría y resistencia. Esta fuerza mayor que la lluvia. Gracias. El Señor con la lluvia nos manda muchas bendiciones. Cristo, sois un ejemplo. Gracias.
Yes, why I insist about this event? Because for me is like a parable of the pontificate. Because also in his pontificate there were crises, there were problems, there were storms, and so on. And this was an incredible storm. It was dangerous. I don't know if someone was there. Of you know, but you were there. You remember? Yes, it was dangerous because also the light was out, the sound was out. You had 1 million of young people in the storm. If there were panic or so, it was very dangerous. And the collaborator of Benedict said him, please go away, go somewhere where you can be protected. Nothing. He remained there under the rain and in the wind, in the storm, with the young people until then the storm is away. And then there was a wonderful moment. He could finish this speech, and this was the wonderful time of the Eucharistic adoration. Silence, in silence, with this 1 million of young people totally wet and but praying behind him with this blessed sacrament. For me, it was a parable of the pontificate. There are storms, but the Pope, with his constance, with his profundity, is leading us to encounter the Lord Jesus and to find again peace and bring us to the end of our way in a positive way. This was really an impressive moment, and for me it is significant that it was during the World Youth Day that for him was an experience of the life of the Church in his way toward the Lord and toward the future. Well, this is the World Youth Days. Another point is order, clarity, synthesis, no one like him.
Every day he met with heads of state, bishops, and other visitors from all over who shared information about important world issues and those that are lesser known. They were memorable moments and visits that highlight humanity.
Well, this is come si chiamava? Tony Blair. This is the day in which Tony Blair was communicating to the Pope privately that he would be converted to the Catholic Church. In any case, it was to indicate you that one of the most characteristic occasion I had to be personally with Pope Benedict was exactly the occasion of these audiences. The audiences with the head of state, prime minister, or other very important person, and so on. And the Pope received them in his private library. Well, and as the very important person went away, then I was introduced. I could remain with him to ask him, what have you done? Because I have to do a communique. And, and then it was important for me to have at least some essential information about the meeting. And then the Pope Benedict said to me, sit here in the normally there where I am, there was the president, but then he went away, then he sit here. And this, for me, if someone asks me, what is the photo you have of your service with Benedict? I say, this, because he said to me, and then I asked, what can I say? He said, we have spoken about this, this, and this. I have said this and this. He has said this and this. And I said, thank you, Holy Father, and I went away. There were 2 or 3 minutes, and he had, with total clarity and synthesis, said to me what was the contents of the colloquium. Also, in other occasions, there was something like this, but this was the typical occasion. And I say, I don't know, I have never known a person with his capacity of clarity and synthesis in a very few words to keep the center of the question and to express it clearly. This is, for me, no one like him in this sense. And to do a comparison, that is not to say this is good, this is bad, but with Francis, I had to do the same thing for 3 years, because I was also the head of the press office with Francis for the first 3 years. It was totally different, totally in the sense that with Benedict I have said what was. I went with Francis, said, what can you say? He said, look, this is an honest man. Or this, I think this is not so honest. He loves his family, or he is interested in the problem of justice and of the migrants, and so on. Totally different. The style of Francis is how I see the other person and how I am in a relation with him as a human person to establish a dialogue or not, with confidence or not, and so on. With Benedict was the clarity of all the contents of the dialogue. But I don't say this is better, this is worse, but there are 2 different approaches. One, total clarity about the contents in the synthesis. Another, the approach to the person. How can I meet or not with him? But totally different. It was very interesting. Well, if you like, I continue, but maybe no. It is another interesting interesting experience like this was with Fidel Castro in Havana, because there was a meeting between Fidel Castro and the Pope during the visit to Cuba, and I had obviously to say to the journalist what was the content of this dialogue. And I remained out of the door, and I could not listen to any words. Absolutely, I had no idea, and I was totally shocked what I have in 10 or 15 minutes to go to the journalist, I have nothing to say. What this is a disaster for me, totally. Yeah. Well, and then Fidel Castro went away happy. I had to go to the journalist, and Benedict was called to the lunch, and he sat to the table. For my chance, the lunch was not immediately ready. And then I asked again, saying, can I know something, at least a word? And then he brought me to Benedict. There was a seat free near to him. And in 3 minutes, he said me all what was said in the dialogue with Fidel Castro. It was to be very, very interesting because Fidel Castro spoke for hours, and then we thought Fidel Castro comes and the Pope will listen to Fidel Castro. It was the contrary, because Fidel Castro was intelligent and said, he entered and said to the Pope, this time I will be silent, I will ask you to say me answer to my question, because you are a person that I can meet today and has a great wisdom about the world, the life, and the church, and I have to ask you and to listen to you. And then the Benedict said me this and what he has said to the question of Castro and so on. But he saved me, because if I had nothing to say to the journalist on this day, it was for me suicide. Well, another point, we will come to tomorrow again about this, because it has to do very much also with the crisis of the sexual abuses, is the truths first and foremost, even in difficult times. Because, as you know, the motto of Benedict is Cooperatores Veritatis, the cooperators of the truths. And his pontificate went through many difficult moments and crises of various kinds, in particular the crisis of the abuses. But I have to stress that practically he had always a crystal clear attitude to be witness of the truths. Never and never and never to try to cover up, to avoid, to confront the reality of the problems. And then he personally, and also for me as communicator, for the entire communication of the church, it was really a fundamental lesson. Without we have never to try to deny the truth or hide it or mitigate it or look for excuses toward the problems of the church and of ourselves. There is a point. Yes, this is a point that has impressed very much the journalist. It was during the flight toward Lisbon, toward Fatima, and he said, from his initiative, was not a request from the journalist to speak about the abuses. He said the attacks on the Pope and the Church do not only come from outside, but above all from within the Church, from the sin that exists within it. today we see in a terrifying way, and therefore the Church needs to relearn penance, to accept purification, to learn forgiveness, but also the need for justice. And in this sense, I think it was really a witness of the truths for all us in the communication, also in difficult times. Well, another point is renunciation, reason and faith in the great decision.
On February 11th, 2013, these words, calmly spoken by Benedict XVI, shaped the foundations of the Catholic Church.
The resignation of the Pope.
It's a very difficult blow to the heart of a person over 80 years old who could not even trust his closest collaborators. Some thought this was the final straw that broke his patience. However, through it all was this man who accompanied him in his hardest moments, God's Father. Benedict did not resign because of the poor, ill-advised father. An Italian Army helicopter is moving the first Pope to resign from his position in more than 700 years out of the valley. The bells of the churches in Rome are resounding. It is an extraordinary event of the Catholic Church, which is even more surprising because of who the pontiff is, a theologian dedicated to maintaining the tradition of an institution with more than 20 centuries of history.
Well, I have been questioned countless times about how I experienced the fact and the period of Pope Benedict's resignation. I keep saying that it was not as shocking to me as many would think. Perhaps because I had been somehow prepared for it for some time by various signals, which did not escape those who followed it closely, even if the renunciation had not been communicated to me except shortly in advance. In reality, what is said on the morning of February 11th immediately appeared to me so clearly and well said that I could only fully agree and admire his clear decision. And I say, to me it seems like a splendid example of lived fides et ratio, faith and reason. Because I think is a man who has seen with total clarity the balance between his strength and his mission. And he has, before God and in prayer, evaluated in the faiths and with the reason that there was no more in condition to do well well as he thinks that he had to do his mission. And in this sense, I admire this decision because I think is really a reasonable evaluation done in the prayer and the faith before God. And I am totally convinced about this. And this is what he has said this morning, in the morning of February 11th. And knowing his truths and his coherence, any search for other explanations other than those he expressed in his statement this morning seems to me absolutely absurd. Knowing Benedict and his clarity of vision, and I think what he has said is totally true. I continue to be surprised by persons that are also intelligent, cultivated, and so on. They continue to think there are maybe other reasons, other motivations for this renunciation. No. I think that also the historians that are here in the future, they will continue to have to say that the real reasons of his renouncement are the reasons he has said this morning. And I think that these were very reasonable, and I continue to try to say this and to explain this, even if there are continuously persons that does not are happy with this my position. What he has said is simple, clear, true, well done, and I had never had any doubts about this from the very beginning, and therefore I have tried to say it, repeat it, explain it until now, and I will continue until I have the occasion to do, and I am happy to say also to you this evening that for me there was a good decision taken before God with reason and faith together. The other point is, living with Francis, it could not have gone better. Please.
After this decision, many wonder how the Holy Mary's life has been, and what is life like after being a pontiff. He prays and prepares for death, as he has said several.
After his renunciation, Benedict lived for almost 10 more years. It is probably longer than he himself and we would have imagined. And about this time, that is the time of the pontificate of Francis, practically, with a time in which we have the Pope Francis and the Pope Emeritus Benedict. I think the two protagonists, in my opinion, the new Pope and his predecessor, as could be expected, followed the lines of conduct that were entirely appropriate to the situation. Francis has demonstrated attention, devotion, esteem, and affection for his predecessor, and going several times to visit him at his residence. And Benedict has demonstrated discretion, respect, and support for his successor. The images of the meetings between the two over the years can confirm this community of sentiments and of prayer. There have been some few occasions in which the people have tried to find reasons to contrast the two. And in fact, there was one occasion, there was the occasion of the publication of the book of Cardinal Sarah, with a contribution also of Benedict, in which there was a certain confusion, but I say, in 10 years, one time of a little problem that could be clarified, it is really nothing. In 10 years, in this sense, I say, and I think really that it could not have gone better. It has gone very good, very, very good, because the relation between the two was a real a relation of affect and respect and proximity of Benedict in the prayer to the service of his successor and so on. And in this sense, my position is a very positive one. I consider a gift done to me, in this case by Francis, because he is the person that has said me to be in the foundation of Benedict. I had never thought to this. And Francis said me, as I finished the service in the communication, please took the responsibility of the foundation. And I have interpreted it as a service of demonstrating always the continuity and the difference and integration of the service of Benedict and Francis. And this is, at least until I am the president of the foundation, the aim of the foundation. It is to serve the good harmony and continuity and collaboration of Francis and Benedict. And this is what I and my two collaborators that are here, we try to do, and we have received this mission and are very happy, loving both Francis and Benedict to do this service. And now that we have come to the foundation, we can also show living memory. Yes, this is the last occasion that were for me very intense and important of contact with Benedict, were the occasion in which we every year presented to him the Ratzinger Prize, the winner of the Ratzinger Award every year. It is also our good friend Tracy Rowland. This is another. Yeah. You see, here there is Tracy Rowland near to the Pope. We were going to Pope Benedict. He has received every year, we with the winner of the Ratzinger Prize, for a wonderful meeting, at least half an hour, sometimes also 1 hour of colloquium, and he was always very, very attentive, very interested. This is important because it's the last, exactly 1 month before his death, and it is the last public photo of Benedict during his life. This with the two last winner of the prize. And in the last occasion, he was no more able to speak, but Ganswein was able to understand something and to serve as an interpreter between the invited, the guest and him, and his memory was perfect. He had a perfect lucidity and was very interested in what the president said, and he was sometimes asking also some question. Well, for me, they were very, very fundamental moment in the last years. In particular, the last is really his last photo with us. Now, what we can continue to do is a mass. Every month, with the foundation, we organize a mass in the Vatican grottos near to the grave of Peter and to the grave of Benedict. There are 10 meters St. Peter and Benedict. And in between there is the altar where we celebrate the Mass every month with the friends, with other people that desire to come in praying with him. The memories are always there, and also other friends around him. And we are, this is Ganswein that has the blessing of the tomb, and then this is the tomb of Pope Benedict, where we pray every month or every time we desire. And the spiritual communion with him in prayer is necessary so that his legacy on which we are gathered together here to reflect and to study is not reduced to the cultural dimension alone, but expands to the spiritual one, in the faith and hope of which he was for us witness and teacher. In the sense, I am happy to give you a witness that we try to serve the legacy of Benedict as something that is living, that is a spiritual presence, is not only thought, culture, without a participation of spirit and prayer that continues. In this sense, you are all invited. If you come to Rome, we will go together in the grotto to celebrate, as we do with Roberto and Jordi every month, and with also Pierluca and Luca and other friends. And if you come, you will be very welcomed also at the tomb of Benedict to pray with him, to receive also his spirit and not only his culture. Thank you.
Friends, we have about 5 minutes for questions, and we have a microphone. If you would like to come to the microphone and ask Father Lombardi any question. I have 2 microphones. Look at this. Professor Rollins, you want to come to the microphone?
Can you tell us what Pope Benedict thought of Australia when he came? And is it true that, you know, the thing he remembered most was being presented with a python? Yeah.
Yes, it is true. It was a World Youth Day, and I have said that the World Youth Day were very important for him. And then during the first 2 days, he was resting in a house of spiritual exercise to overcome the jet lag and so on before beginning the days with the young people. And in this time, there came a big truck from the zoo, I don't know, with many animals, because if you go to Australia and you see the animals, there are good people, friends of the animals, that help you to have a good relation with the animals. And then they take a little crocodile and so on, and put you in your hands, or a python around you, or a koala, and so on. Yes, and it was done also for the Pope Benedict, who was very interested by the animals, and the servant of the animal tried to give him a crocodile in the hands to take him, and he said, "No, he feels much better with you." And then he has not taken the python and the crocodile, but he has seen and appreciated that thing, yes. But I remember also in Australia, but he has done most important thing in Australia also. But the mother of the governor was presented to the Pope with the family after the audience, the meeting with the governor, and she put immediately question about the cats. Because she loved the cats, and she asked, "It is true that you love the cats, and how many you have, and so on." In this sense, the animals had an importance also during the trip. But I remember the vigil in the hippodrome, in the large where the vigil of the World Youth Day was in a large. Yeah, yes. And it was wonderful, and it was an impressive way of the cross also in Sydney. Yes, many good things. Yes.
I have a quick question. Thank you so much for coming. Was there a writing of Pope Benedict's that he sort of was most proud of, or was his favorite, or he sort of referred back to the most?
His favorite writing.
Io di lui di lui stesso. But he has said that his best theological work was the Treaty of Eschatology, because it is but he is not an author of big theological systematic books. Maybe he had also not the time to do it, because then he was named Archbishop. But in the time of Regensburg, as he professor in Regensburg, he has written a book, a manual of eschatology, and is the only systematical treaty that he has written. And he was happy about this as treaty. But obviously, he was very happy. This is important. If you have still some minutes, the books about Jesus. These were really the work that he desired to complete and to finish. And I had not said this, but this is also for me one of the most impressive aspects of his pontificate. That he, as Pope, acting Pope with many problems, was able to write an entire work in 3 bands about Jesus. This demonstrates that his vocation was in writing about theology, because a normal person that has many problems cannot concentrate itself to write a profound work during a time in which he has great responsibility. Every Tuesday, he did not accept audiences and other engagement, if possible, obviously, because on Tuesday he was working about the work of Jesus. And he decided to finish it. And I remember that as he finished the third book about the childhood of Jesus, I have begun to think that he would renounce. A strange consideration, but I feel that I can do. The work about the book of Jesus has accompanied the entire pontificate in a profound spiritual way. There is an answer he has given to Sevald in the interview. Sevald asked him about the spirit in which he was doing this work, and he said, yes, this was for me to continue to receive water, living water from the source, in the study and write and reflect about Jesus. And then was something that has helped him also spiritually during his pontificate. And I think even if he has stressed that the book is not magisterial, not in magisterial work, I say always this is maybe not magisterial, but is a service of Peter, because Peter has to confirm the faith of the Christian, the faithful, and help them to meet Jesus. And then he has done exactly this with the book of Jesus, as a personal witness of his life. There is not the name magisterial work, but is the service of Peter for the church. He thought that it was a very, very important service. And then he decided really to come to an end, to finish the book. And I remember the day in which we presented publicly the third volume. I think, and now, what happens now? There was a dimension of his service that for me was lacking now. And in the fact, the day in which he has written the introduction to the last volume, it is, if I don't mistake, 15 or 16 August of the 12th. And then he has said, I have taken the decision, last decision of the renunciation during the summer. Then there is a coincidence of the time in which he has finished this book and the time in which he has seen that his service was completed, or at least he had to think. This is my consideration. This is, this is to stress how profound the work about Jesus. It was not only a cultural work, there was a witness of his faith and of his service for the church.
Friends, please join me in thanking again.